Okay, we're on the air.
Good morning, and welcome to the regular open meeting of the Third Laguna Hills Mutual for the month of April. I would like to call this meeting to order. We have a quorum. We will now have our Pledge of Allegiance by Director Parsons.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Would you all please turn off or mute your cell phones?
Oh, God, I better do. Thank you. Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda.
I so moved.
Second?
Second.
Acknowledgement of the agenda. Yeah, Annie seconded it.
I know, but
Oh.
I'm looking at it, so forgive me. The thing
Excuse me.
is he wanted to make a little
One
modification.
item wanted to remove from the consent calendar, and that's number 10A1, and put it under unfinished business, please.
Okay, so we have a modified agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the modified agenda?
So move.
Okay. All in favor? All right, so are we going electronic today, or? Yes, okay, so after this, we'll vote using, all right, Granicus. Okay, so I didn't acknowledge the media, which I should have. I was so excited about having the agenda approved, and she's waving from me from the back, so our media is present. Okay, I need a motion to approve the minutes. Could we do them together?
So moved.
Second?
Raise it.
Any comments? All right, so all those in favor. Now remember, we're doing this on the screen.
Don't have it.
We don't have, yes, we do. Okay,
That's pretty cool.
We have 2 members absent.
okay, so all members present have voted. We have 2 members, board members absent today. Jack is in the hospital and hopefully is getting better. And Kush is on vacation because even the board members can go on vacation occasionally. All right, so now report of the chair. There are a few, well, there's some really good things. The board has had a meeting to do our strategic plan for next year and for the future. And we had phase 1 and phase 2 is coming up next week. And the purpose of this is to make sure that we identify the things that we believe that we need, hearing from the community and being involved, but also to try to make sure that we have a plan in place so that future boards, because, a number of us are going off the board and new ones come on, at least know the things that we were feeling were our needs, and they can continue to address them. So our next one is, I believe, next week, I think on the 28th. The other thing is we have had 2 pre-budget meetings, one for M&C and one for landscape. And our pre-budget meetings are meetings where we go over the items identified in the strategic plan, and we go over their importance, and we make sure that staff has them so that the budget process isn't staff just telling us what they believe or know that we need. It's also us expressing what we think that we need. And when we sit down with them, we try to get it together so we have the best possible budget and the best possible plan for the future for the community. So, and John Pearlstone did a magnificent job of putting all of the data that we carried on about at the meetings together. And I will actually give a copy of them to Siobhan and Jeff, because we wouldn't want to keep you in the dark. But I want to thank the board. We did a good job. So now when we sit down with staff, we won't be at the last minute wanting to add this and change this, and we could see how we could arrive at a good budget. And the last thing is, and I keep waiting, but I don't see him. We did select a new board member for VMS, and his name is Ralph Engdahl. And Ralph it's a short term that he's on. I believe it ends in December. But he's very excited about being on BMS because he wants to learn more about the community, although he's lived here for 6.5 years. And he would consider, which is always a good thing, to either rerun for VMS or run for the board. And we're always trying to develop people who want to run for the board because 4 of us are going off this year, and not all of us can come back. So that is the report of the chair, except there will be some information on our lighting project, but we're going to let our general manager talk about our CEO. I always call him, I used to be a general manager, I figured that's the name. He will report on that. And our next item on the agenda is the open forum, 3 minutes per speaker. I want to remind you that these are items that are not on the agenda, and we also want to remind the residents who come up that we cannot use this point of the day to accuse specific board members or specific staff members, but you can generally talk about things that are important to you so that we can address them. You will not be answered when you come up with your comments. You will be, after everyone makes their comments, we will respond to you. Okay? So, Cheryl, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Our first speaker is Chris Collins.
Good morning, Chris Collins, 3306Q.
Good morning, Chris.
Thank you. Nice to see all of you, and thank you for all your hard work. I'm here representing the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village, and I want to talk about our real commitment to the maxim of neighbors helping neighbors. So, if your spouse or a family member living with you is experiencing increased forgetfulness or dementia, but you can't afford a caregiver, would you know what you could do? To meet this need, the Foundation of Laguna Woods Village is partnering with South County Adult Day Services, which operated by Alzheimer's Orange County, which is located here on El Toro Road. To meet this need, the foundation has recently expanded our financial assistance for the first time and is offering financial support for assistance for residents who have social daycare services. Previously, financial assistance was only given to participants in the healthcare program. So now participants in both can receive foundation help. Both of these programs, the social one and the healthcare program, are available at the El Toro location to those affected by Alzheimer's and other kinds of dementia. The socially oriented program, which is called Adult Daycare Program, offers social opportunities, recreation, meals, friends, combined with some health services like blood pressure and medication screening. The second is called Adult Day Healthcare Service, and it's prepared to handle a range of complex medical conditions and offers things like nursing care as well as physical, occupational, or speech therapy, counseling, assistance with dementia or behavioral conditions, eating assistance, and more. An official screening and paperwork are required prior to starting. So for information to see if someone is eligible for the financial assistance and to enroll, please call 949-855-944 and ask to speak to a social worker. As Jim McClear, Chief Executive Officer of Alzheimer's Orange County, recently pointed out, and I quote, "Without the support of the foundation, our friends from the village would not be able to receive these vital services, and many would no longer be able to stay in their homes. Caregivers are able to receive respite from providing care while knowing that their loved one is in a safe place during the day. Our partnership has been a true blessing for the families we serve and the program itself. Dozens, if not hundreds, of Laguna Wood villages have benefited over the years. So the foundation is very proud to partner with Alzheimer's Orange County. So for questions, you can call the foundation 949-268-2246 or online, the foundation at comline.com. Thank you.
Chris?
Yes.
I have a question.
Yeah. Yes.
So, first of all, so they wouldn't go through, a person wouldn't go to our social services department? They would call another number?
Social services has to vet them, but if they want information about it, you can call at Alzheimer's to see what kinds of things are available. But
Okay.
they would refer it then to social services.
So, but if somebody doesn't remember the phone number that you said that I didn't even write down, and they don't want to just talk to a stranger, they could go to our social services department?
That's always the best thing. Thank you. Thank you, Rosemary, yes.
Well, I didn't know if they were going to line up outside the foundation office. So, and.
Oh, that's right, out here, no.
Where everybody would be going crazy. So
No.
they would, if somebody has questions, they could contact our social services department.
Yeah,
Or
yes.
the other things that you suggested, which is contacting the foundation, or there was another number that you gave us. Could you go off of your notes again and tell us what the number is?
The number over there at the Alzheimer's Orange County is 949-855-9444.
Okay.
That's their
That's
direct
the number, so people have a choice. If they want to,
Right.
they have a choice of things to do.
But whether or not the, social services is going to, whether the foundation would be paying for these services, obviously has to be vetted through our social services.
Yes, all of the work
Yes.
all of the
Yeah.
aid that we give, it does go through our
Yeah.
social services.
Yeah,
Okay.
and really the spirit of this little announcement is the fact that we've paid for a while for the medical model, but now they've added in social.
Okay.
Which is really good.
That's excellent. Thank you very
Thank you.
much, Chris.
Thank you.
Does anyone on the board have any questions before she runs away out of the room? Okay.
Can I be next?
It's up to Cheryl. Cheryl has the list. Cheryl, who is next?
Oh, I had no idea that. What do I do? Sign up for an appointment to get up and speak?
What you do is you fill out the form so that people could come up in an orderly manner. Thank you.
Our next
So
speaker is Ed McGill.
Good morning, Ed. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you.
Did we do something wrong or right? Put pressure on him.
Ed McGill, 2390. I'm here to ask two questions of the resident owner manners of 2390. Number one is buildings to be exterminated this year. Is there any updates and any information? Are there going to be any buildings done, and when will they know with a third of the year already gone? Second is flyers regarding bulky item collection and items of this nature, due to the fact that everyone here is has dealt with this question and got some input from people or the residents as to what they would like to see done. I wanted to find out if there are going to be any changes to things of this nature, how the building captains can get a hold of things of this nature, and did we consider putting all the information that's on here on the outside of the doors of the trash room, so when before people have that impulse to open the door and throw, they look and see where they should be throwing. That's it. Thank you.
Maybe we could start a trash committee. And you could be on it. No. All right, we'll answer that. Thank you. Cheryl, who is
Okay,
next?
our
Thank
next
you, Ed.
speaker is Corky Ellie.
It's my turn. I'm here in a little different matter. I am so upset. I've lived in.
Excuse me, you
I can't hear you very well. I
Okay,
could speak
your
up.
name and manor number, please. Corky Ellie.
24012E Mariposa West.
Okay, thank you.
I live in a condominium. I've been here for 30 years. And this is the most disgraceful thing I have ever seen in my life with what has happened to Leisure World. And most of all, where all these little things are sent out on the computer. And most of you know that most of these people in here are 90, some of them are 90 and over 100 years. And they are not on the computer. And everything you do is out of the realm for them. Myself, I've been out of commission for a few years, and I haven't been up here. But this hotline where you says that you, Third and United, have all voted to extend the trust to 2044. Well, that's great, but nobody knew it other than your little hotlines that go out. And I was lucky enough that a lot of people sent me a lot of stuff. And I went through all of it. And I was appalled what you came up with. Because none of you, all of this has been Leisure World since 1982. There's no Laguna Woods Village. It's a fictitious name. And it's not even listed. And what you've done to Leisure World is disgusting. And the organizational chart that came out, that I have a copy of, where it says the trustor of the trust is United, Third, and Mutual 50. And I was appalled that Mutual 50 has got their own budget, and they're not even listed in the red book or the blue book or whatever you're calling it now. And this Village Management Service, Inc. is owned by United, Mutual, Third Mutual, and GRF. And everybody knows, if they have any brains at all, that GRF doesn't own anything.
Corky, your time
All of us are a member of GRF.
your
I'd
time.
like to extend
Excuse
this a
me,
little
your
bit.
time is up.
But what I'm telling you
Your time is up.
is this better be Leisure World the next time I get up here. Because all of the documents
Corky, your
that
time
we've
is up.
gone
Turn off the
through
microphone.
is here, and I've gone through all of them. And you broke the law, all of you.
Okay,
If
thank
you don't,
Thank you. Thank
get
you.
in touch with Dr. Ben Larson, who is now overhead. You're going to be in trouble,
Thank you.
all of you.
Cheryl, is there anyone else?
But I'd like to hand you the document that we've gone through to make this Leisure World.
Okay, so and to respond to the residents, well, we don't have to respond to Chris Collins. We have already asked questions. To respond to Ed McGill, yes, we do have an extermination schedule. Generally, it isn't done in the first quarter, but we do have a complete list of the buildings who are going to be exterminated. So we can get that to you. If Kush were here, I would say Kush would get it to you, but I know that Siobhan will get it to you. But we do have a list of all of the buildings that are going to be done. And we constantly ask for the list to be updated. So, and we actually have put a lot of effort into changing the communication to the residents, when we're going to do this process so that it is more helpful and less nerve-wracking. So we are on top of that. And as far as the trash pickup goes, yes, that is something that we all know that we have to work on, and it's something that we will work on with our CEO and COO, because every day, I'm sure a lot of us who go out to the trash, although we try to do all of these things about special pickup days, and you could call, you could still go there, and people are ignoring what we're trying to do. And every time somebody puts their mattress outside or their toaster oven or anything that isn't part of it, costs us, the residents, money. So I know that that's something that we really have to improve. So if you have any ideas, we would look forward to hearing them, all right? And as far as our last person who came up, Corky, we're totally aware of the fact that there are some residents who do not use the internet. So we make sure that anything new that has come up, we review at our board meeting. Because we have to, first of all, notify the residents if there are going to be any changes. So we talked about the trust on television before, so we have to have things out for 30 days or 28 days or which is the new law. But we have to give our residents an opportunity to comment on things. And we're constantly trying to work on how can we get information to people who don't use the internet. We have hard copies of the newsletter, The Breeze, where we put a lot of information printed and available. It's available in the library. I know that we've talked about possibly having it delivered. We have it delivered with the book program when they deliver books to homes on the weekend. So we are trying to consistently and constantly work on ways to get information to the residents. So that's what I could say about that. Do any of the board members have any comments that they want to make before we move on to our next? So looking around the room, nobody's looking. Yes, Lynn?
I would like to address the bulk pickup flyer that you had in your hand. Ed, I had asked Eileen already to make copies, plenty of copies, and get them to Stuart for the next GBA meeting next month, so that they can be posted in the buildings. Thank you.
And as soon as we improve the program, we'll have new flyers. Okay, thank you very much, Lynn. All right, so ordinarily on the old agenda, we would have a report by our VMS board member, but as we stated at our last meeting, the board is a business board, and all of the business really should be reported by the CEO. So we are now going to turn this over to our CEO. Good morning, Jeff.
Good morning. Good morning, board and members. Number of updates and then a couple of additional information items for you today. First off was wanted to make our residents aware of a public hearing that's coming up with regards to the I-5 El Toro interchange project. And that's going to be held this Thursday, the 18th, from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. at the Holiday Inn on Lake Center Drive in Lake Forest. The Orange County Transportation Authority, along with Caltrans, are developing a plan to address the 5 El Toro interchange to, from their perspective, improve traffic flow, optimize traffic signalization, trying to reduce congestion and reduce freeway traffic queuing. The reality is that there is potential impact to the community, the village, and especially in the area of Avenida de la Carlota, and our gates down in that area and the residents down in there, because one of the proposals is a flyover project that would produce a single lane flyover for an specific exit for El Toro, which would encroach closer to our residents and would have an impact of potentially sound walls and visual and noise. So we encourage everybody that can attend to attend and hear the presentations, see the presentations, and make comments. If you can't, the environmental document that was prepared for this project is at dot.ca .gov, and that's the Department of Transportation at California.gov. So you can also go online there and review that. But we're trying to get as much information out as we can to get people aware of the project. Could have a significant impact, and the more we engage, the more we send letters, the more residents are there, the more impact we'll have with regards to Caltrans.
So, again, where is it?
It is going to be held at the Holiday Inn at 23131 Lake Center Drive in Lake Forest this coming April 18th from 4:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m.
Okay, so we're encouraging our residents to attend this because of the impact, and I wouldn't say positive impact.
Well, the biggest one from the initial analysis is certainly on Carlota, because they have the plan there is a flyover, so the biggest impact would be noise and potentially encroachment into that area. So there may be some acquisition of, not necessarily of the village property, but neighboring properties that would be much closer, and so there could be noise and or aesthetics. Because probably what would be planned in a flyover is sound continuation walls. So you go from a 6-foot wall to a 12-foot wall, then that has an impact on the visualization out there. So.
Okay, so we're going to just question you as you make your presentation because we can't keep ourselves back. So go ahead.
Good morning, Jeff. And I think you probably...
Is your microphone on?
Yes, it is on. And I think you hit on it a little bit. My question was, can you explain to me or to us what a flyover actually is?
Wish I had a PowerPoint to show you. Basically, it's a single lane that is elevated, and it's like an off-ramp, but instead of just coming off to the side of the freeway, it goes up and over and would take traffic over to the Lake Forest side and take traffic theoretically off of El Toro at the intersection. But it's a more direct individual lane to provide for clearance as an additional off-ramp. So I hope that explains it as best possible.
Yes, Raisin.
Jeff, it sounds like that this project will have impact on the flow of traffic from and to Gate 5. Has been the community contacted by the city to explain the change of the flow of traffic, which may impact adversely the people, especially at Gate 5?
Well, I think that's part of what this meeting is about, to explain what the impacts are, and at least Caltrans's analysis of what the impacts are. So that it's important that we hear that. I have reached out to Chris Macon at the city to get their perspective. I know that I've met with 3 of the city council members, and certainly they have their concerns. There are a couple other alternatives. Obviously, no project is an alternative, but another alternative was to move, have an additional off-ramp further south, which might be better for the village. I'm not sure if it's better for our neighboring communities, but I think the city of Laguna Woods and the village are basically in the same position and feel the same way.
Yeah, because what I'm afraid of is that the final product might have impact on the community, which we have to deal with. That's not fair, I guess. So we have to be careful with that.
So being that you have been in government more than many of us have been, so generally after a meeting like this, and if people say, you know, this really isn't a good thing, and why don't you go? Because I saw some information that had been sent out about why don't you have it closer to the site of the former Pennies? Because generally what happens, do they have a meeting like this and I'm going to be really real, my New York side, and it doesn't matter what we say, they go ahead and do it? Or do they have more meetings? What usually happens?
I think realistically you have 3 elements. One, I think it is important for Caltrans and OCTA to hear from people that are impacted, not just board members, but residents. So that's why it's important if residents go or if residents write letters, because it's individuals like that do have. Both Caltrans and OCTA are used to hearing from government agencies or boards like ourselves, so they'll be expecting that. As far as the ultimate, I think that Caltrans is looking at that they probably have a mantra that they're going to expand and widen freeways until the cows come home. Literally, I think that's their mantra anywhere. You see that going northbound on the 405, and I think it's that's something that the engineers love to deal with. I think that the next step is that if it seems like there is a movement or a direction to go towards an alternative that is not in our best interest, then we need to figure out what is the next appropriate action, whether that's specific lobbying or if we're going to have to take a legal action to fight the environmental documentation. That's where we would be teaming up with the city. Hopefully we'd be teaming up with multiple cities. The best thing that could be in our best interest would be that our mutual interest is similar to not only Laguna Woods, but also the city of Laguna Hills and the city of Lake Forest. What is challenging is if Lake Forest says it's a great idea, Laguna Hills says it's a great idea, and Laguna Woods and the village is saying it's a bad idea. Then you start pitting government agencies against each other. That's the best thing for Caltrans. Because they'll sit there and go, well, you guys don't even know what you
Right.
can't agree to, so we'll just go ahead and do it. That's the challenge.
So, not that I want to add to your burden, but have we thought of running any transportation to there for residents who might not want to?
We actually have thought about it. I have not specifically set anything up yet, but Eileen and I did talk about this the other day, as whether or not we'd have the interest in getting people down there, and if we want to, we can definitely coordinate that. We'll work with Chris, and we can make that happen.
So because we're getting close, right?
Yep.
It's this Thursday. So if you were to decide to do that, because I think that people, most often Holiday Inns don't charge for parking, et cetera. But we don't know how large the parking lot is.
Right.
It's small, so it's small. So in a way, for us to encourage our residents to go, not that I want to add to your transportation plan.
No, I think it's a great
So
idea.
if you were to decide to do that, we would really publicize it on on television to let people know. Is that what you would do?
We can make that happen.
Okay, so you're going to decide like by the end?
Today, based on this feedback and based on the feedback that we have so far, we'll make that available if that makes it sense. And based on, there's always limited parking, and people, it's tough to get there sometimes and find these places.
Yeah.
I'd rather be, progressive and get out there and say, hey, we'll have a bus at one of the gates.
So you might have just one bus running back and forth, whatever.
Or if we can get a big enough bus, we can collect enough people in one bus and take them over there for the
So
day.
people would have to come here where there's plenty of parking at that time of the day.
We'd probably use a clubhouse as a start place. And,
Oh, okay.
and
All right,
then-
well, so we're going to just get it out there in every way we can. Okay, that's
Yep.
excellent. So thank you. All right, keep going. We only.
no, I have a further
Wait,
comment
he
on
has.
that.
We're not done yet.
Jeff,
Sure.
for your information, before I came here, I've been here 4 years. I spent 12 years on the OCTA Citizens Advisory Committee. So I have some contacts, and that committee is a terrific place for us to make our interests known.
It's certainly an important way to go too. And Daryl Johnson, who runs the OCTA, is somebody that we can make direct contact with, from my experience too.
So
He's a good ear to have.
If you want to make your case, go to the Citizens Advisory Committee. They meet once a month.
Okay, thank you, John. So in any case, you can now get to your second point.
A few other points. Coming up, Saturday, May 18th is our Memorial Golf Tournament. Wanted to mention that. It is the 11th annual event. Foundation helps to affected residents face various challenges, so this benefits the foundation. It is an event that is open to all residents and their friends and families, so I encourage people to get involved and come out and golf. It's a 4-person scramble, and then there's also a dinner included in Clubhouse 2. Entry fee per golfer is $120. There also is a $50 per non-playing dinner guest. They would like to attend that. Coming up on Friday, April 26th, is our celebration of Arbor Day in the village. So we will have an event adjacent to the koi pond facing Clubhouse 1. It'll be at 10 a.m. on Friday, April 26th. Again, at Clubhouse 1, adjacent to the koi pond. We'll be planting a Chinese pistachio tree and a small, medium-sized, hardy, delicious tree that is native to central and western China that features a small red fruit, turns blue with ripe, and planted in temperate areas such as Southern California. It works very, very well. And then the next item I have on there is that a big item that is important to the community and our residents and overall globally, I think important, and that's dispose of meds, a safe process. And there's going to be it's called the responsibility for April 27th is National Prescription Medication Take Back Day. And that's for individuals who have unused or expired prescription medications instead of the old days where people just threw them away in the trash can or put them down the toilet and had an impact negatively through that process. This makes it a most efficient and effective way of disposing of medications that have expired. That's going to be held Saturday, April 27th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Laguna Woods City Hall. And that's located at 24264 El Toro Road. No Sharpies, no needles, marijuana, or pressure canisters will be allowed. So don't bring those items. Saturday, April 20th, a busy week that week, is our Easter at the Equestrian Center. That'll be held from 9 to 11. Pony rides, petting zoo, egg hunt, a lot of activities for kids, missions free. There's also going to be parking is available in off of Via Campo Verde. No parking at the Equestrian Center, and shuttle bus will be available from 8:30 to 11:30 to get people over there. So we'll use the parking lot over there at the Equestrian Center for setup for most of the events.
Where do they pick up the shuttle bus?
It is, I apologize. Parking is available in the lot off of Via Campo Verde, and actually I don't have the location of
It's
shuttles.
the employee parking lot.
Okay.
At the maintenance center.
Thank you, Siobhan.
Okay, then people know where that is?
The address.
But, so that's up the hill from the Equestrian Center?
Yeah.
Okay, so, yeah, because I got lost one time on my way there. So you turn as if you were going to if you were coming on El Toro, you would turn as if you were going to the Equestrian Center and go up the hill, park your car, and then instead of having to roll down or run down, you'll have a bus? Okay, got it. Thank you.
Perfect. Last two items have more to do with activities, operational activities for the third and for the village. The first one is last week, as you know, the third board had a meeting with regards to the kind of the results of the pilot program with regards to the streetlight project that we have working with Siemens as our consultant. We've collected a lot of data, and as was presented, the three alternatives, and what was interesting out of that alternative is it really kind of focused on that the mushroom head style was the one that was most liked in the sense of the style, the aesthetic style. Got the most votes relative to, which was option B and C. Versus the Cobra looking, what we call the Cobra looking light. So going forward, I wanted to reiterate what the board's goals were and what our goals are relative to staff and putting together the next presentation to you. First of all, the goals certainly were, which have already been accomplished, was one, to acquire the streetlights from Edison and get control of that. And having control was for two impacts. One, you get to the electric rate changes to what is known as the LS2 rate versus LS1, so it's cheaper. But having also, more importantly, the control and making sure that when we have lights that are out, we can get them repaired and be more efficient with regards to that, because Edison has a history of about being a little slow on fixing streetlights. So that's those two are you've accomplished, and you're moving forward with that. The other one was looking at converting to LED, which is much more cost savings for electricity in the long term going forward. With regards to that, then the next step was to define and really start to hone in what are the aesthetics that we want, what is the idea of the safety value that we want to create. Do we want a lighting program for our lights that are in existence right now, the poles that we have? Can we find a fixture that's going to disseminate more light so we can address some of the areas where we have sidewalks on one side of the street versus, so you have traffic safety lighting, and you have walking mobility lighting, and how to make that the safest as possible, and what that blend is. So given the fact that we have the aesthetic selection in the sense that the residents who have commented like the mushroom head, we are now focusing on how do we create the most efficient safety element with regards to creating that dispersion of light to first address safety with regards to driving the street. Then secondly, the pedestrian element, using that mushroom light, what is the best fixture that can come forward with that? Once we kind of pull that together, we're working with Siemens. We've got a meeting set up as soon as Ernesto gets back, which is next Monday. And we're gonna set up a meeting with them and start focusing on those two elements, and then come back with a recommended pilot program to take a look at those fixtures as they relate to cul-de-sacs, additional streets that are narrow or wider, and then intersections, because those are the key areas, and it may be a different fixture. Now, we don't want to go into 50 different fixtures, because then we lose
30,
the
yeah.
cost effectiveness of maintenance. But in reality, if there are 2 different or 3 different fixtures that address those 3 specific areas, we will bring that forward to the board or to M&C, whichever is quickest and fastest to get it back to you.
Right, that's excellent, because one of the challenges we had at the presentation was it seemed like what they were giving us was one light fits, one fixture fits all. And even though, we know that wasn't right. So we really appreciate and thank you for your involvement and taking this back from a very concerned board who thought, I do think there were so many, we kept trying to think of it, there was so much interference into this project, and then there were so many other things going on at the same time. So we couldn't ask Siobhan to do that also. So we appreciate the fact that you have this experience and that you'll work with our staff to get us the best thing that we could possibly have. So thank you.
Sure.
And when we have that, when we do another pilot, we're going to do the same thing because it might be in 2 places, so we're going to do the same thing about notifying the residents so they get to put their input into it like we did before.
Absolutely.
And I hope that we push back on Siemens a little and tell them we need a discount on that first pilot because they didn't deliver what they should have.
Then we're going to have a lengthy discussion with
Good.
Siemens with regards to
Now
making
Bunny is very happy.
And I just wanted to just further make a comment. I really do want to acknowledge and appreciate both Ernesto and especially Guy's efforts with regards to working on this project. They put a lot of time and effort and we're going to get there. And we promise you that we'll have some good options for you at the next level.
Thank you. And is that it?
That's one more.
One more, okay.
And a big one in a sense of hopefully creating some cost savings again for all of us here in the community, and that is we're looking at legislation that we worked on last year, as you recall, and that was with regards to having legislation that would provide for acclimation process if we have elections moving forward where we have 3 positions or 4 positions, whatever the amount is, and we only have that amount of candidates, we don't have anybody else. Under HOA law right now, we still have to have an election. That process for the village in the last election, basically, they're $20,000 on each election. So that's $60,000 that if we had the same process that municipalities have, school boards have, every other major organization has the ability to have acclamation. And so Senator Morlack is carrying the bill for us. We have a meeting today with our Assemblywoman and trying to get her on board with support of this bill. And I am going to be going up to Sacramento next week and on the 30th to testify for this bill. On that note, just wanted to bring you up to speed on that. We have letters that we're gathering signatures from our residents and our board members. Eileen has them in the back. So anybody that would like to sign a support letter for this, we'd appreciate having you do that and get the board members to sign it. And we'll move forward and we'll take those with us to Sacramento.
So the board members have already signed. So, but
I know
if,
we're gathering you up. I didn't know.
right. So will you have, is Eileen here? No, so I guess you're going to have to answer. Will we have letters in the back? But what if somebody is watching this at home and they're just wanting to run in to sign the letter?
They can stop at the concierge desk and
And
sign.
they'll have
Yes.
them there? Okay. All right, so is that it?
That's it.
All right. Do we have any more questions before we move on? Siobhan, do you have anything that you would like to add? And again, as always, we thank you for your hard work and your pleasantness. All right, so we're now going to go to the consent calendar. Remember, one item was taken off of the consent calendar, but it's just for a little matter of clarification in the way it was written. So that's why it was taken off. So I see Brett in the back, and he's going, oh, what are they going to do to me now? Don't worry. Okay, good. In any case, do we have a motion to approve the consent calendar with the removal of A1?
I so move.
Okay, all those in favor? Oh, and excuse me, any discussion? All those in favor? Okay, so,
You ever get to tap it in there?
oh, I'm sorry, oh my goodness. Thank you, Cheryl. Yes. So we're missing one. Oh, they're coming. Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so now we have moved number 10A1 to unfinished business, number 11. And the reason why I asked this to be moved is because, and it's very clear, it is very clear in the agenda packet, 10A, page 1 of 1. It is very clear that, but it doesn't say it in the description, so we just have to remind Eve to do this, or whoever is doing this to do this, that we approve the request to install a vinyl fence around the previously extended patio slab, and that gate 1 is removed from the proposed plan. So we approve this with the removal of gate 1, and that's what basically it should say here, so that it doesn't look like we're approving the whole thing. So I wanted to talk to that. Because we always should have our little notes as clear as possible so that it can't come back to bite us. And somebody could say, well, you approved it. So we would therefore need a motion to say that we recommend the approval with the vinyl fence around the previously extended patio with gate 1 removed. And that's showed in the plan. So could we have a motion to that effect? All of those who attended the architecture meeting would know. All right, we have a motion, do we have a second? Second. Okay, so all those in favor, please use the screen. Okay, So good job on that. Thank you very much, Brett. You did a good job of getting that to work out. And we thank the resident for working with us. So it is approved. And we can now move to number 12, new business. And for that, I will turn it over to Roy.
Did we not need to approve the rest of the consent calendar?
We already did.
All of it?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, we generally approve it en masse, whatever,
Yep.
all together.
okay,
And we pulled that one off because we wanted to discuss it a little.
okay,
All right?
all right.
So now we're up to number 12.
Okay, number 12, new business. We have 2 new resolutions that we need to put on 28-day review. The first resolution relates to amending the golf cart policies and procedures. This resolution was approved by the Finance Committee. It was also approved by the Resident Policy and Compliance Task Force. The main points of this resolution: it adds a separate fine for golf carts cited for using mutual electricity without an annual electric golf cart decal. So in essence, these folks are getting free electricity, and we're all paying for that. It's $100 for the first violation, with increments of $50 for subsequent violations, capped at $250. And a member in violation must obtain the annual electric golf cart charging decal within 10 days of the violation. So I move that we put that on 28-day review.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
This is fun.
Okay,
The second resolution,
just a sec. Okay, 8.
we got 8?
Okay.
Well,
She had to step out for a minute, so that's unanimous for those present.
right. Second resolution is to amend the lease authorization policy. This resolution was approved in closed session of the board last month, but it has to go out for the 28-day review period, so it's being introduced here in the open session. And the main points of this resolution: residents cannot add additional lessees to an approved lease during the approved lease period. Room rental arrangements or subleases are prohibited, and I make a note that they have always been prohibited, but we're reinforcing that in this resolution. Advertising for a room rental or rent sharing agreement is prohibited. No manner or portion thereof may be used for vacation rentals or advertised for such use. And no manner may be leased to a corporate housing company, including any nonprofit housing organization. In essence, we are trying to keep our community for residents and lessees on a long-term basis, if you will. I move that we add this resolution to 28-day review.
Is there a second? Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
And that's the end of section 12.
Thank you, Roy.
You're welcome.
Okay, from here, we'll be moving on to item 13, committee reports. And Mr. Jack Connolly is, I think, currently at the hospital. He's had some breathing difficulties, so they've asked me to talk about the Finance Committee and give the finance report. So if we could have slide 1, please. Okay, through the reporting period of February 28th, 2019, total revenue for third was $5,750,000 compared to expenses of $3,892,000, resulting in net revenue of $1,858,000. And I'll be talking more about that due to timing. So, slide 2, please. Okay. In finance, we keep a close eye on the operating portion of our financial results. The operating fund without depreciation shows an operating surplus of $447,000 through the reporting period. This chart shows how much of our revenue went into operations, with $3,128,000 coming in from assessments and $276,000 coming in from non-assessment revenue. This is compared to operating expenditures of $2,980,000. After backing out depreciation, which is not funded through operations, we can see that the bottom line operating surplus at this time is $447,000. Slide 3, please. This chart shows those same figures from the income statement, but compared to our budget. We can see that third ended the period better than the budget by $1,795,000, primarily due to timing of reserve programs. And I'll talk about that in a little bit more here as we get into slide 4. Okay, here you can see this depicted. And what I'd also like you to do is to take your package and turn to the agenda item 13A, page 6 of 7. In the past, we haven't done this, but I think this will make more sense to you if you look at the actual statement of revenues and expenses. Once again, that's item 13A, page 6 of 7. And I want to take you down to line 16. It says outside services. And as you go across, you'll see headings. So if you go over to the fourth heading, which says actual, under year-to-date budget, and then right next to it, you'll see the variance we're talking about, okay? So the actual column here shows how much was actually spent to date this year versus the budget year to date. And then you can see the variance next to it. So on slide 4 here, I'd like to talk to this for a minute. Outside services, which is your line 16, basically due to timing, is better by a variance of $1,571,000. Budgets are spread evenly, and certain reserve expenditures will occur later in the year, including building structure replacement, landscape revitalization, roof replacement, exterior lighting, paving, moisture intrusion, and waistline remediation. So those are some topics that are coming up, and also I'll take you through a few more here. Item number 2 here is utilities and telephones. We're $82,000 better due to savings, which is due to less water usage for irrigation due to rainfall experienced this year. Next item is materials and supplies. We're better by $68,000 due to timing. And we have a lot of projects that go on, but there are certain times in the year where we buy the materials to do projects. And based on the timing of the projects, a little bit in advance is when they buy the materials. So these things will be coming up in the future. And they deal with certain programs such as garden, villa, recreation, and mailrooms, building structures, dry rot repairs, and landscape. And the last thing to talk about is the non-assessment revenue. The variance is good by $101,000. Favorable variance in fees and charges for services to residents resulted in more revenue received from chargeable services. Water heater replacements is an expanded service that has generated more revenue than anticipated. Additionally, we have higher reserve balances yielding more interest income. Further, more reported revenue from resident violations. Also, revenue is recorded when billed and may be in various stages of collections. So all that's saying is when we know that something is needed or a revenue we know is being billed, we charge it right there. And then later you'll see the actual collections to that. Okay, slide 5, please. On this pie chart, we show these non-assessment revenues received to date of $378,000 by category, starting with our largest revenue generating category, fees and charges to residents, followed by interest income, resident violations, and so forth. Slide 6, please. This is a pie chart as we see the expenses to date of $3,900,000, showing that our largest categories of expenses are for employee compensation and utilities and telephone, followed closely by outside services, insurance, materials and supplies, and so forth. Slide 7, please. The reserve balance on February 28th, 2019 was $30,695,000. Year-to-date contributions and interest to reserves were $2,346,000, while year-to-date expenses were $911,000. Slide 8, please. Here we compare this to historical fund balances for the past 5 years on this chart to see that Third Mutual has been committed to supporting reserve requirements while providing more contingency funds for unexpected events. So we'll give you a second to look at that.
I have a question.
Okay?
So there's a little red mark that says Garden Villa Rec Room Fund on the right-hand side, but not, it doesn't show on the chart. Oh, it shows on your chart.
Well, it
No,
shows
it
over there.
doesn't. No, it's not in, doesn't.
It's at the very, very top here. It's so minuscule,
Oh.
you can just barely see it.
I don't, I
You
mean,
can just barely see it at the top.
I can't see it.
Oh, I can see it. I have glasses on.
Maybe
now.
they should use a different color, because yellow or something, because it's, I can't, it's next to the purple, I don't see it at all. I mean, and I have like good vision now.
Well,
So,
remember, the amount is so small
I
compared to the
know,
overall.
but I thought the chart was incomplete.
Oh.
So- Well, because you don't see it.
At first glance, you could take that, as a
No,
a
I've
possibility.
been looking at it for 15 glances, and I don't, right, right. So maybe they should change the color. Thank you.
Okay, onward here, slide 9. We have added a slide here to show resale history from 2017 to 2019. Through March, Third Mutual sales total 99. And I'd like to tell you that we look at this every month in comparison to municipalities around us, and we're almost exactly a mirror image of what they're experiencing in sales and what's on the market. So a little more update for Third Mutual on the monthly resales report. March, we had 42 sales compared to 38 last year at this time. Total sales volume this year is $16,639,000 compared to $16,909,000 last year. Average resale price this year in March is $396,184. Last year was $444.9 thousand. Now, something that can skew this is when we have a sale of a large place, which may cost $1.2 million, $1.5 million. So that can jack up the average sale. So that's something to keep in mind as you go through. But we're up 7.6%. I think that's good news for everyone.
So it doesn't mean that the price of the houses is plummeting.
Correct.
It means that the type of house was different.
Is a big
than-
consideration,
yeah, is a
yes,
big
yeah.
consideration.
So in some ways, you're looking at not apples to apples, but when you back out and you look at certain things in comparison, apples to apples, then it makes sense. Okay, one last thing on the monthly leasing report. We have reported to us 1,690 leases, and we're sitting just under 28% of our population are lessees under a lease.
And we're going to get a detailed report on that this afternoon
Correct.
in our closed session, so that we could make decisions as to, are we exceeding or is the number accurate, et cetera. And then, of course, we will report whatever we're doing at the open session next month.
Okay, that completes my report from the treasurer.
Okay, thank you very much. There are a few names that aren't quite, we had different people running the meetings, so the report of architectural controls was me, and we met on May 25th. Don't we have a meeting in April?
Yes, we do.
Because it says next meeting, May 27th.
No, it's coming up real soon.
Do we know when the next?
I don't have my phone with me. I think it's Thursday.
Architectural controls? Okay, in any case, at the Architectural Controls Committee meeting, we came up with a few things that It's this coming Monday.
Coming Monday, okay.
So the next meeting is this coming Monday at 9:30 in the boardroom, and you will be running that meeting. I just was a fill-in.
Correct.
So the significant things at that meeting, which were moved over to the agenda for this upcoming meeting, had to do with,
Retractable sunshade rules, and also going to be discussing current rules regarding air conditioning units and sleeves. We have three residents that are coming forward with their cases to be considered.
okay, so, and there might be one person who is coming back again.
Is an appeal,
Is an
yeah.
appeal. Thank you. For some reason that missed. And, okay, so those will be on the agenda for the next meeting. So thank you. The next is the report of the Maintenance and Construction Committee. And Director Vada is on vacation, so Bunny would like to report on that. We didn't have a meeting, so it should be quick.
Right. I just want to let everybody know that a complete list of all our activities and progress is always on the website, because the project log is on the website. But Jeff hit on the most exciting thing, which is the illumination of our community, which we are putting a lot of time and effort into getting it right for our residents. And I just want to say that we appreciate the persons that participated in the pilot. And I don't recall if Jeff mentioned, but the one that the residents, the most favored one was C, which was very light. But of course, you will know that we are going to have another pilot, because we didn't feel that all the site-specific, situations that we have was covered. So one of the other things that we discussed was researching materials for the breezeway recessed areas. And as you know, we did a project for 3 garden villas, and the cost was extreme. And so we now want to go back and research it to see if there's some new materials out and evaluate how we were going to go forward on that particular project. Everyone loved the cul-de-sac signs. So right now, it looks like that we're not going to complete the cul-de-sac signs until 2020. I mean, that's the schedule right now. And then we will go on to the building sites. So the only thing I've been involved in ever since I've been on the board is the dry rot. And I want to tell you, we've got this under control. We don't hardly hear a lot about the dry rot, but any of those that have been on the board for the last 5 years know, what we've been through to get a real handle on it. So that's my message.
And that's great to tell us that, Bunny, because it would always be that we would be having millions and millions and millions of dollars that had to be spent on dry rot, because dry rot was so neglected in the past. But once this board, I would say 5-6 years ago, we really said we have to, you can't ignore it, because it doesn't go away. How we would love to have something go away, but it doesn't. So we've really addressed it, and prior to paint, but also in our programs with the contractors, where we had to do major work on a lot of the buildings. So that's really good. So our next M&C meeting is going to be on May 6th at 1 p.m. in the boardroom. And we have to remember to ask staff, I'm going to look at Siobhan now, we like to ask them what the chargeable service response has been quite good. A number of people are using our chargeable services. The costs are less than if you were to ever go get any of the things from the outside, yet the charges are enough to cover the cost of the labor and the material, so that we're not burdening the community by undercharging, and that was really important. We wanted to charge enough to, again, cover the cost, not necessarily of the department head, but of the person who went out and did the work and anything else that he had to do. So we like to ask, how many people use chargeable services this month? And they could just get the number right out of the computer. So if we could ask for that, it would be a great thing, because we know that we have more because our revenues are up. So that's great. So the next is the report of the Parking and Golf Cart Task Force.
Okay, an issue has come forward regarding parking in the wedding cake area near Gate 6. This is an item that we're going to be taking up to look at. Some things that come forward that necessitates a relook at possibly striping, as well as looking at other alternatives.
Yeah,
So-
because one of the things that we did when we removed the red line in that area, we said that we were going to allow the people to park a little bit on the sidewalk, because then if people are backing up, we could have more accidents, and I don't think that security has been advised at that, so they're going out and ticketing people who, and we had discussed this, so we didn't know if we had we couldn't decide what colored line it should be that said, like you could put your wheel over here, because if you put a yellow line, it can mean one thing. You couldn't put a red line, you couldn't put so we have to address that so that the residents feel more secure about parking their vehicles. And so we were looking at that. And then there might be some other issues
Yeah, there's some
also.
other issues. So more to come on that.
All right, great. Report of the Landscape Committee, Director Jarrett.
Good morning, everybody. There's been a lot going on in landscaping. As you drive around the village, you can see all the beautiful trees and flowers in bloom for the spring. And that brings out the landscape workers, because they've really been working hard to keep up with all the rains we had. There was a lot of work going on. One of the really great things we had happen recently, and I hope this will be televised, but Kurt Weeman, our landscape manager, gave a report to the landscape committees of the boards, different boards, and about the herbicide testing that was done. And it barely came out to be a positive thing, because we were really concerned that it was going to cost us a lot of money to have an alternative product to take place around it to kill the weeds. As it turns out, we came out really with a good price on the products that we're going to be able to buy to handle the weeds. But the presentation he gave was superb, so we don't want to lose that. So hopefully he'll be able to give that sometime, and you'll be able to see it on TV. Another thing that we've got coming up in May is the aeration, because the lawns haven't been aerated. We need to do that. So there's going to be a process in place beginning in May where they'll dethatch the lawns and aerate them and fertilize them, and you'll see a lot of beautiful grass out there in the next few years. One of the things about the water savings, I wrote a article in this month's Breeze about water savings, and we're always talking about it because our price of water is always going to go up, because El Toro Water District has to recoup the cost and put in reserve money to pay for the infrastructure they're going to have to replace in the future. So the cost of water is always going to go up, and this year will probably go up about 2%. So we always have to continually saving. But what I want to do, I want to let you know that the residents have been doing a pretty good job of saving, because this is the first month we have not had a raise water in the Tier 4, which is the highest bracket we pay for water. So that was really good.
Are you talking about the residential use
The
water?
residential, yeah, the residential.
Well, probably because their plants that were outside got rained on. I mean,
But anyway, what I wanted to say, Rosemarie did touch on this, but last year we did our work on the strategic plan for the next 5 years for landscape and M&C. And there's a lot of work to be done, so we can talk forever about the budget for all these different things. I want to talk about tree trimming. Tree trimming is a really big deal here because of all the 27,000 trees we have in our village. tree trimming is a big job. So what I want to mention here is one of the biggest jobs, or the high priority jobs of tree trimming is getting done right now, is trimming around the light poles so we can keep the lighting going. That's a really high priority. And Kurt Weeman, the landscape manager, at our last landscape committee meeting, he gave us a list of the trees that we own in the village. And I'm sure that he took that list came from the Arbor Pro software. It was really enlightening. It was a 5-year list of trimming and the names of the trees and how often each one has to be trimmed. And I want to give you an example in 2019 of what they're going to be, what we have to deal with as far as trimming. And this is just a sample. We have 783 palm trees, king and queen. We have 754 carrot woods, 292 jacarandas, 408 cajeput.
These are all in third?
Yeah. I don't know. I can't tell you that for sure.
Oh, okay.
That's a good question.
Probably spread throughout.
373 fern pines, 530 bottle brush, 488 Canary Island pine, 311 Hollywood juniper, 734 crepe myrtle, 422 southern magnolia, and it goes on and on. I'm sure that it has to be all over the village because that's a lot of trees. But anyway, that's what we have to contend with. The other thing, we're going to do one more program. We're in the middle of that now. We just got some renderings done for the landscape modification project, and it's a turf renovation project. We're going to call it turf modification. What do we say? Turf modernization. That's what we're going to call it. And that project is about ready to be shown to some of the residents. And so, like I say, the renderings are ready. And once we get this information to the board for approval, we're going to have a meeting with some of the residents so we can let them see what we're looking at as far as that first project, because that's not going to be the first one that we're going to do this year. The next meeting is going to be May 2nd, next landscape meeting. Thank you.
So landscape is one of the only departments, and finance are the only monthly meetings that we have, because all of the other ones we have, except for the board meeting, we're on an every other month schedule, because we just leave it up to staff to keep working, and we don't want to tie their time up in meetings. But there's so many things that have to happen in landscape that we're still doing that monthly. I know that there's going to be a lot of information coming out on the tree trimming, because I know that staff is working on ways to improve that and save money. And I know that we need, when we review, when the turf improvement or drought tolerant plan is introduced, remember, we don't want to see it unless we have cost impact involved in this. So how much we're going to be saving over time in watering and labor as attached to how much it's going to cost, because we don't want to just see pictures. We need the whole package, and I think I've said that 912 times. So we'll just have to say it again, because that's very important to the community. Because we shouldn't be doing something unless it's going to be nice, but also financially sound. So there's a lot of stuff to do in landscape, and we know that. And we're looking forward to working and getting an update on everything that's going to be completed this year, so that we could really know what we have to focus on for next year. So thank you very much, Lynn, for being a new board member and just jumping right into this. And again, the report on the Roundup replacement, we voted to do that, and I was confident that staff was going to be able to figure it out, that we couldn't go back on our decision, and yet it wasn't going to be really costly. The biggest thing, and I'm sure that we're going to be having Kurt's presentation on television or whatever, is I think the cost will be around $23,000 more for us next year, which is minuscule when you compare to what spending money. The greatest thing is that it didn't require a second application. So because it's the labor that costs more than the product. And the fact that he was able to mix it up and get the right results with using the compounds that are not like Roundup is excellent. So there'll be a lot more information coming out, but it was a great presentation. And we told him that he did a great job, and we were very impressed with what he did. So we're looking forward to the community learning about it. So the next thing is the report of the Laguna Woods Village traffic hearings. Director Frankel.
One further comment on the trees. The 5-page report is specifically labeled third mutual. So,
Okay, thank you.
with regard to traffic, we had a somewhat abbreviated session. As far as whether that represents a trend, I cannot say. There were only 13 violations, 1 for speeding, 2 for decal, 1 for registration, 1 for stop sign, and 8 for parking, the preponderance of which were contractor parking.
Great.
Oh, and the next meeting for traffic is tomorrow, and Annie will be our leader.
So is there only one tomorrow? I thought is the afternoon one canceled?
Well,
According to the schedule, it's canceled, but I think we were told that it was going to be all day.
Okay, so otherwise all right, so then there'll be one in the morning and one in the afternoon. Okay. Yes, Annie, our new board member, is also on the trial by fire traffic committee, so thank you. Okay, report of the communications committee, Director Bruninghouse.
Yeah, the Communications Committee met on March 13th. We are not going to meet in May for a couple of reasons. First of all, there are no major policy decisions, considerations on the agenda. Staff is doing a very good job carrying out our directives, but we are working hard on getting the next issue of the Breeze out, and I would like to invite not just committee members, but also board members who have suggestions for articles for the Breeze to let me know or to let Eileen know. Our deadline for that is the 24th of this month, and then we get into production.
So you're basically, if there's no meeting in May, the next meeting is going to be in July, according to how we meet every other month?
It depends on a number of things.
Okay, all right. Well, the committee is so important, so we shouldn't go for like a year without having a meeting, so we should try to have it in July. There is a big concern on the part of communication, is when we first, and Siobhan, I'm going to look to you for this, when we first put together the newsletter, we had determined that the cost for the newsletter were going to be shared by United, Third, GRF, and the towers. And it was shared proportionately, because the towers only had like 1 page, and each one of us had 3 pages. And I am not sure if that is being followed up on the way it should be, because we were just supposed to take the total cost and share it. And because we all get copies of it, it's all for all of our residents, and it was something that they agreed to. So if you could because we have to just make sure that we're following up. Okay. Report of the Energy Task Force, Director Frankel.
We basically discussed the scope of work for the energy consultant, or TEC, which is, we discussed the scope of work and EV charging policies and other tenure requirements to support the electrical structure. There will be a meeting at the next meeting, we will be electing a new chair for the Energy Committee.
Okay, and that meeting is on May 1st at 1:30 in the boardroom. Okay. Report on the Water Subcommittee. Director Connolly, as you know, is not here, and I wrote next to this, who can handle it? So, of course, I wrote that late last night. But the basic thing is at the meeting, at our meeting, and then, of course, we carried it over to this. We had a wonderful presentation by El Toro Water, and I know that we're working, Jack had some things on online, to go to, of ways to try to incentivize or create excitement for the residents to do different things, whether it was going to be focusing on the toilet replacement or whatever. So I don't have anything major to report, except we are working on programs that would try to encourage the residents to use less water. Staff is already a given. That's up to our CEO and COO, but for us to try to work with the residents. So we'll have more information on that.
Further on water, I did mention that I have a copy of the presentation by the
Right.
El Toro Water, and if anybody's interested, I'll be glad to make a copy.
Right, that's excellent. And I think some people had some challenges on how to use the site to get their rebates, but if they have any questions, they should get back to us. And I know Eileen put a lot of great information together. So the next is the report of the Resident Policy and Compliance Task Force.
Yes, Madam President, this task force meets as necessary, and we did meet on March 11th. We have had no new issues to come up yet, so when we do, we'll meet again.
Okay, thank you. All right, so the next is for GRF committee highlights. And for these, it's important so that we use our time very efficiently, that if there was no meeting of the committee and you have nothing to report, you could just say no meeting or nothing to report. So community activities,
I want to make one comment.
okay, go right ahead. There was no meeting, but you still have something to report. Or
Well, the last meeting,
was March 14th.
oh, okay, I'm sorry, not that one.
Oh.
I was prepared for the M&C.
Oh, okay, all right, so that's okay. Yeah, so we didn't have any, the only thing I know that we're doing is we are working, I've been trying to work with them a little bit on acquiring a new chair, and we actually found a chair that we liked. It was in the price line, and it actually stacked 16, which made it very good as opposed, because most of them stacked 10. Which was good, so that would solve the situation in Clubhouse 5, so we don't have to go into the land of orange plastic again, because they're pretty uncomfortable. So I actually met with Brian, and we just had some ideas on the finish, which is a finish that is better than a flat finish. So he had a few things that he was going to look into, but I thought they're lighter. So if they're lighter, they could stack more. And I think that fact that we were having to stack them 20 probably never really happened that often, because the chairs are always out there. So I think that's really good. So we wouldn't have to construct another storage area, which was a thought. So that was good news. So we'll see. I'll send a little email. Finance Committee, the GRF Finance Committee did not meet in March, so the only thing is our next meeting is April 24th at 1:30 in the boardroom. Landscape Committee, you didn't have a Landscape Committee meeting for GRF.
No, we do not.
Are they ever going to have one?
They said we're having one May 15th, we'll see.
Okay. I mean, because they have a lot of landscape things, and they just, so, check it out. All right, Maintenance and Construction Committee, this is for GRF, Director Carpenter.
Yes. They completed the pickleball and paddle tennis. And I think everybody knows that, but what they don't know is they came in under budget. So, yes, so actually.
By how much?
Well, it was really great, because what was budgeted was $850,000, and the project expenditures were $573,000. So that's really, really pretty good that they were able to come in. So, pardon?
No, wait.
I love cost savings. So anyway, the tennis club improvements is being reviewed. And I just want to say something about the gate arm installation. And I think we all know that gates 3 and 7 are right now closed for the construction. And one of the questions that keeps coming up is, why don't we have one side open for, traffic? And the answer was by Siobhan, that basically said that it's the nature of the installation, and which includes the electrical, and the contractor needs all the space. So I just wanted to relay that because there are so many people that are questioning that issue. So that's it. Well, okay, they're having draining issues in the 27-hole golf course, and that's being addressed.
So
That's
there,
it.
so thank you very much for bringing up the gate arms. There is one gate that you're going to have to keep, can't close. Actually, that'd be two, because you can never close the gate for gate 14 when you get there, because we just have to stay home. All of us could stay home. 3 board members would be missing, but that'll come up. But so what other gate is there going to be a different plan for?
There is another one. Let me do some quick research. and I'll answer that.
And also, when you're doing gate 7, you were going to do something with getting rid of that big bump, or is it, so that's,
That is correct.
okay, so that's good, very good news, because so many people, that was really constructed rather high. So they had to modify, supposedly have to modify that in order to have the whole program work effectively. So that is very good news. So, okay, so thank you for bringing that up. Media and Communications met on April 15th. That would be yesterday.
That's correct,
Okay.
Madam President. We met yesterday and had some good discussions. The first thing that came up was the Caltrans El Toro interchange meeting. And Jeff, you've already talked about that. It's important for us to send some folks. The issue of the gates came up. The old RFIDs that get you into 5 and 6 may need to be reprogrammed to get into the new gate. So if you try to get in with the RFID that you got a number of years ago, you may not be able to get through, and all you have to do is come up here to the community center and they will reprogram it for you. I'm not sure how they do that, Jeff, but that's what we were told.
Would there be many people who that would pertain to?
I
Or a
think,
few?
help me out, Siobhan, isn't it only the ones that were part of the initial RFID pilots? I don't know, it was brought up by one of our members was not able to get through.
So the thing is so someone would just drive up to the gate
And it wouldn't
and it
open.
wouldn't open?
Everybody looks stunned.
No, there
And
are-
I would be shocked.
Eileen is
That's
not
like
here.
stunning.
There are some considerations, depending on the model of the car, if there's chrome and some such that could interfere, where the sticker is placed on the vehicle,
Okay.
et cetera, so.
Okay.
So if somebody drove up and the arm didn't go up, other than, what should they do? I mean, obviously, they can't keep going,
Well,
because
they can
that's
back
not
up.
a good decision.
They would return to resident services and we would try to.
No, but if they had cars behind them?
The ambassador.
The attendant
yeah.
can
Oh,
manually.
can manually do
They
it.
can manually
Okay,
do the
so
gate.
the important thing is if you go through and the arm doesn't go up, that doesn't mean that the gate is defective.
Correct.
It means that there's a potential problem with your RFID and you should come to the community center.
You may just,
Okay.
you may just have to wash your car.
All right. Or get a new one.
Or get a new one. The last item that is important for our residents to understand is that the old Channel 3 guide, which kind of does its thing slowly, is going away. The company that maintains it's gone out of business. And since we are trying to convert to an all-digital, all-HD basic package for everybody, we're not going to try to find some kind of analog alternative for that. So there will be, and Eileen's work and her staff are working on it, a communication plan to let all residents know exactly what's happening here. But it is going away. I don't know, Siobhan, whether we have a timeline on that, but, stay tuned until you can't tune in Channel 3 anymore. So that's the end of my report.
But the important thing is in Eileen's, as opposed to what was said earlier in the day, whenever a communication plan is done, it is not done to only focus on the electronic message.
That's
We
right.
do understand that some of our residents do not use the computer to read all of the wonderful things that are sent out, so we'll make sure that the information goes out. And lots of times we could use our television station, et cetera. So there is a plan, and actually one of her goals was even to figure out better ways to communicate to those people who don't use electronic media for communication. Okay, so the next thing is the mobility, I must be getting tired. Mobility and Vehicles Committee, Director Pearlstone.
Okay, so the committee met on April 3rd, and the real focus of the meeting was setting of the table of what's hoping to come in the future months with a presentation from the consultants that are tasked with identifying how to improve our mobility service with the bus service and get it under control cost-wise, service-wise. Their feedback was two things worth of note, I thought anyway. Number one is they've worked with a lot of similar communities, including Rossmore, I think it's called, and Walnut Creek. They acknowledge it's a much different setup here, but at least they've got experience, a broad base of experience with similar type of operations. They're hoping to bring some of that here, customize it. And then number two, they had community-wide feedback sessions, which we attended at various places, the towers, and I believe one was here or somewhere in the clubhouses. And they were able to identify a list of objectives that they're trying to focus on based on community feedback, and then balance that against costs. So it seems like they had a good grasp of the challenge, and we're hoping that when they come back at the next meeting, they'll have some specifics that we can report and give some real direction to how it might impact us. And the next meeting is on June 5th at 1:30.
Okay, the next is the Security and Community Access Committee, Director Parsons. No meeting in March.
Right, next meeting, April 22nd, 1:30 here in the boardroom.
Okay, and the next is Disaster Preparedness, Director Frankel.
We discussed just a few things. We talked about the towers who are now becoming a member. We talked about good neighbor captains, and we were shown a door hanger that good neighbor captains will hang on the doors. Remember, their job is to visit every manor that's within their responsibility, and then report back to the applicable clubhouse. Other than that, that's all I have to offer.
Okay, so that is it with the committee reports. We have to try to make it a point, I'll work on this with Steve, that every one of the board members should be giving a report for something. I mean, not for something, obviously for nothing. No, for a committee. So if there are two people on a committee and one is reporting on one thing, then the other person should report, because it's very good for you to be involved, and it gets your presence out to the community who voted to put you here. So we should make sure we work on that for our next meeting. Okay, so future agenda items are listed, and at this point, we can go around. Look at the time, my goodness, 11:06. We're going to get like a record for being so efficient. So we're going to go around the table for comments. The first one is Siobhan, who was hiding at the moment. Any comment? No, thank you. All right, thank you again for all of your wonderful help. Annie?
Great meeting. No other comments.
Reza?
In lieu of the incident that happens, the fire in the community, I'm suggesting that somehow we find a way to work on the fire safety and do something just as we do for the water usage. Fire safety might be an issue that we can pick up, and also see if we can help the residents to avoid those incidents.
So, Siobhan, where would we go with that? I mean, would that go to?
I will talk with Chief Moy and Eileen, and we will work on something.
And thank you for mentioning that. I did ask Siobhan for some more information as to, which we're going to go over this afternoon in closed session, so we can come forward. You know, if there is a fire in a unit next to yours and you're out of town, what is our entire, and she's going to update us today, so then we could just, what is our process of notifying the person, and if we can't find the person, exactly what do we do? Because it would really be terrible, like to be, well, I don't want to say in Paris, but to be in Rome and come home and, you know, in your house and your clothes smell of smoke and you know, whatever. So she's going to update on this, that, and we could talk about it. But fire safety, that's a great idea. This last fire we had was definitely caused by someone who was doing construction that they shouldn't have been doing, and that is what caused it. So, all right, Director, so thank you very much, great idea. Director Frankel? No, thank you. Nope. Director Carpenter, I don't want to say bunny, because that's your Easter thing. She was born on Easter. Otherwise, your name could have been Patrick if you were born on St. Patrick's Day. Roy.
Can't top that, no comment.
No. I warm up before I come. Lynn. John. We're going to give copies of your excellent reports today to our staff. So, I almost said Director Parker. That would have really been something. Okay. And Cheryl? All right. Thank you. This meeting is
Recessed.
recessed and we'll reconvene with closed session this afternoon.
Good job.